off a dog, and we've got another incredible broadcast for you today. Jim Ziegler and Brian Pasch on the same screen, the same, the same
Who would have thought?
broadcast.
Who would
Who
have
would have,
thunk, Jim?
who would have thought? I mean, oh my gosh! So they are selling popsicles in hell right now. So,
Come
okay,
on.
we're going to talk about the state of the industry. Two of the chief instigators on screen right now. It ought to be interesting. Brian, what's happening with you?
Well, it's just a few weeks before our annual conference. This is the 12th annual Digital Marketing Strategies Conference in the Napa Valley. So we're really excited to just get more people out. People want to get out, meet face to face. And we have a great agenda. We'll be talking about some of the top industry subjects today on our conversation, but we'll continue that in a few weeks in Napa.
There's a lot happening in the industry, a lot of transition, a lot of things that I would have sworn 10 years ago were never going to happen. So, okay, I'm really interested in the opening keynote at your conference. Yeah, we're talking about. Let's see. Let me look at the title to be sure I got it right. Is fear killing automotive retail innovation?
Mm,
Well,
yeah.
who's afraid? Who's afraid?
Well, Jim, you've talked about this for a while, but now it's gotten worse. Is that when vendors are in OEM managed programs, they lose their voice. They lose
Co-op.
they lose their ability to speak up for the dealer. And dealers in a constrained inventory environment are afraid to speak their mind about the OEMs because they're afraid of allocations. Let me give you an example. When Stellantis made their decision to pick only one digital retailing tool, there were many dealers who felt that the tool that they had was a superior tool. And the other digital retailing vendors in the program, in the approved Stellantis program, obviously knew that their products were better. They couldn't say anything publicly because they were afraid to be booted out of Stellantis's other programs like websites or chats or technology. The dealers, even though behind the scenes they were saying, man, this product sucks, they're like, but they're telling me that if I want my inventory allocations, I have to accept this tool. And there's been a lot of pressure, financial pressure.
Oh, Brian, I talk to 100 dealers a month on the keyboard or on the telephone in my social groups. I'm talking to 100 dealer principals and hundreds of other employees, management mostly in car dealerships. I'm going to tell you what, there's a lot of pressure from a lot of different sources uh, to accept these different programs. Car Bravo, for instance.
Right. I mean, like, I've expressed, last time we talked, I expressed my opinion on Car Bravo, but here's the point. If the vendor community can't speak up and the dealers are afraid to speak up, what are we going to get? We're going to get insular solutions that won't stand up under the pressures and real life scenarios of automotive retail. And we're going to go through a lot of wasted time.
I'll give you an
Listen,
example. I'll give you an example.
go ahead.
Techion.
Yep.
Techion is probably a superior vendor to many of the sources that dealers are using right now. But the fact that it's almost a requirement or is a requirement for some of the manufacturers, I have issue with that because are they reporting to the manufacturers? Is that the manufacturer's benefit?
Well, I think, Jim, what the manufacturers woke up one day and said, look, we spend millions or billions on advertising. We drive people to our national website, regional website. We generate leads. We drive people into the dealer showroom. And once they get in there, we have no idea what's going on. The only thing we know is they bought or didn't bought, from us. So I think an end-to-end retail system, listen, McDonald's or other, Target, Walmart, they have end-to-end systems. I understand the need for that. And Tekion is what I would call a clean slate solution. But Tekion does not have any experience in scaling in real life over thousands of dealers in retailing. They just don't have the tools. They don't have a CRM today. They don't have, they have some digital retailing tools, but
They've
it's
got some digital retailing built in and some CRM functions built in, but they
not a
don't have the
full
entire formula.
No, and listen, I want Tekion to succeed because I believe that they're going to be a formidable competitor, and competition brings innovation. What I'm just wondering, why would anyone put all their eggs in one basket? We just saw, Jim, this week, Modal just collapsed. It was Honda invested 15 million, I was told, in Modal. They collapsed. Why put your whole digital retailing infrastructure in the hands of one company? Why not create what I had defined at NADA is a real-time data exchange where the Roadsters of the worlds, the Gubagoos of the worlds, the CarNows, the Cox Digital
Prodigy,
Retailing, Prodigy, right? These companies, WebBuy, all could serve at the retail level in the store and roll up in real time the data to the manufacturer. That's what I believe is, a solution. And of course, Ariel mentioned GM, BMW, Nissan are investors in Tekion. Yes, and listen, there's not Tekion's booth, Jim, at NADA was probably the busiest booth of all. They have some really smart people, but I'm just surprised that GM makes an announcement, says all e-vehicles are going to run through the Tekion digital retailing platform, the DRP, with no discussion about how used cars are going to be handled, how F&I is going to be handled. Is the consumer going to be able to see what the dealer wants to add onto the car as far as F&I, or is this going to be completely taken away? So Jim, it's the Wild Wild West. And so the opening keynote is fear is preventing a discussion. Everybody has all these little side stakes, but no one really can speak their voice.
Brian, for 35 years, I started out writing for Auto Age, and then I wrote for Dealer Magazine, and then I wrote for Auto Dealer Today, F&I's showroom, and then I wrote for Ward's Dealer Business for a while. And I've always had one title of my column, The Dealer Advocate.
Right.
Because I would say things to the manufacturers and to the vendors that other people could not say. For that fear factor didn't just happen last week. It's been with us.
Right. And now it's becoming, and this is the weird thing. Again, I'm not hearing voices. I'm not hearing NADA gathering steam here. But
the NADA limped off the battlefield, bruised and wounded a long time ago. They're not in the fight. And another thing is they've got a big convention every year that they have revenue coming in from these manufacturers and revenue coming in from these big vendors. So there's another fear factor.
Yeah, and so what's interesting for me is that in addition to this new mindset of fear stopping real dialogue, there's this other thought, which I believe is an artificial thought, that the EV customer is different than the regular customer. So when someone buys an EV Hummer or an EV Bronco or an EV whatever, all of a sudden they're a different shopper. They want to buy that car online and they don't want to deal with a normal local dealer in the way they've been. And I'm like, no, don't, there's a small group of people who like that Tesla model, and Tesla cars are very simple with very few options.
But Brian, my next door neighbor, I live in a country club gated community. My next door neighbor has a Tesla and a Jeep.
Right. Yeah. So all I'm saying is dealers heard GM say, hey, the electric vehicles will be done through the DRP, the Tekion digital retailing platform, with no discussion on all the things where dealers really make money. They don't make money on the car. GM said one price, you will get a fixed commission based on that, no negotiation on price, which I'm fine with. I think that actually helps modern retailing, but none of the
But
other pieces.
does it help when such a small amount that it's almost a pittance on what they could make if they had a free market?
Well, and this is why we need to have discussions. So I want to open the conference with a challenge to the OEM community, the dealer community, the vendor community. Why couldn't we create a real-time data exchange? Now, there are two companies that have experience in this area. One is called Motive Retail. Have you ever run into them, Jim?
Uh, Look at that.
Yeah. Motive Retail is one. They are a specialized data interconnect company. They work with a number of OEMs today. I presented my solution for dealer choice in retailing software at the STAR Standard Committee at the NADA convention in Vegas. And in there was the CEO of Motive Retail, and they came up to me and said, "Hey, do you know about us?" I'm like, "No, I really don't." And since then, we've had some conversations. They are an independent specialist in creating APIs and data exchange between DMS and OEM.
First I heard of them was when I researched that you and I were going to be speaking today. I hadn't heard of them.
Yeah, so that's one company. And another company that's in so many OEM programs and has a full development team is Shift Digital. And Shift Digital has the relationships with 15 plus OEMs. They already manage the digital retailing programs. And Shift Digital could create this real-time data exchange that would allow dealer groups, like for example, I consult with the Crown Automotive Group, Joe Lamphere and his team. They love the Roadster platform. They don't want to change, right? I have other dealer groups that just love CarNow or Gabagoo. So why are we going to take the millions of dollars that these dealer groups invested to create a modern, faster, easier buying experience and throw it down the toilet because some executive in Detroit said, no, I'm going to go with an unproven brand new platform.
Unproven brand new platform, and these vendors are gobbled up and they sell to a bigger entity, and you don't know who's going to end up owning that vendor eventually anyway.
Right.
Roadster, who just bought Roadster?
CDK. Yeah, I just interviewed Rudy Thune, and he was the CEO of Roadster. They're doing some amazing integrations, and here's what they're trying to do, Jim, and you know this. Most people, in order to close a deal, they have 8 tabs open on their computer, right? I mean, you've been training F&I for years.
Oh, I go in the dealership and there's 3 screens and the managers have their head down because they can't watch their business because they have to balance 3 vendors on 3 different screens. They're not integrated.
That's right. And that's what CDK, I think, Reynolds and Cox is trying to do. Because listen, Techion is basically saying, look, we have no legacy integration problems. We're going to build everything from scratch, and we're going to make everything talk to each other. It's a great sales pitch. It just, Jim, you know, deals have hair on it. The first version of Techion CRM was a junk. And of course, why? Because it was built by tech people offshore, and they don't understand the automotive industry.
They don't get us. They don't get
a good CRM takes years to perfect and tweak. And all I'm saying is Techion's not, I believe, realistic in their goals that they're going to be able to meet the needs of thousands of dealers with all the deals that have hair on it, with all the exceptions to the rule. Because listen, whether you've been in the industry 1 year or as many years, Jim, as you've been, you know that things never work out of the box the way they're intended. And
look at Dealer Socket. Dealer Socket owned the world at one time. One time it was eLead, Dealer Socket, and that was it. But then all of a sudden they tried to launch their Blackbird program, which was designed by a bunch of technicians and a bunch of geeks that basically were trying to design what they thought the car business should be instead of the way the dealers actually do business. and they crashed hard. They
They
crashed
did.
hard.
Blackbird ended up being Sesame Street's Big Bird. That's exactly what it was. And listen, Vin Solutions came out of the blue and just innovated. Obviously, eventually bought by Cox. But it has taken a few years for even Cox to integrate Vin Solutions into the digital retailing,
Cox
into the
companies
website.
don't talk to each other. What are you talking about?
Well, listen, I've called them out many times. The good news is the last demo I saw of their retailing platform and its integration with Vin was quite impressive. You see, and we'll talk about this later, this GLB, the Graham-Leach Biley Act.
Oh, we're going to talk about GLB.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
But I'll tell you one thing no one's thinking about. This data passing by ADF XML files, passing lead information from websites to CRMs using ADF XML is against the law at the end of the year.
Dealers are doing a lot of things that are against the law, and
it's against the law to send
they're aiding and abetting the crime, and they don't even know it.
Listen, I think next year dealers are going to be flooded with lawsuits because every lead form, every digital retailing tool that's on their website, they're responsible for the control of that consumer's information. And if a DR company is sending a copy to the OEM and sending it to the middleman, like Schiff keeps a copy, and if the DR company has a copy for backup, and then listen, and then they send that customer's information as an ADF XML file, that's a violation because data that's shared has to be encrypted.
Graham-Leach Biley is about to come down hard on the dealers.
Yeah, we got like 6 months before the pain, starts happening. But the reason why I bring this up is that we still, within many operational tools that dealers use, we're passing data not through APIs, we're passing data through these flat file XML files. And of course, that's silly because it's inefficient. And this is why someone like Tekion has a great story. They're like, look, we're going to be passing everything through secured API, no the ADF XML files. We're going to have one screen on the sales manager's desk and one screen on the F&I manager's desk and the whole customer record. I mean, it's an amazing picture, except automotive's not that simple.
Brian, if you recall, I've been on this for 15 years. I mean, I was screaming about data long before it got on anybody's radar screen because the TrueCar campaign, when I came down on TrueCar and I organized the entire industry, it was like, the Frankenstein movie where the villagers with torches are chasing,
Right.
And, I was all over TrueCar because they were taking 32 pieces of data out of every dealer's DMS. Dealers don't even realize who's taking data out of their DMS, much less what they're doing with that data.
Right. And Jim, now with GLB going to be instituted at the end of the year, dealers have to have a plan. And let me just say, I'm not a lawyer, but here's how I interpret it. The key differentiation is whether someone is a customer or a consumer. And if someone comes into the showroom, normally most dealers have some disclosures that they sign about data sharing. And that's because that person is a customer. They're actually buying a vehicle. But the GLB has a lot more protections for the consumer. So today,
prospects instead of customers.
Right. So according to GLB today, if a consumer goes to a dealer's website and they have a digital retailing tool, it's a Roadster, it's CarNow, it's Cubby, and there's an unlock which requires them to put in their name, email address, and phone number to unlock to see prices. Okay, that information at that point, that consumer has to be told that that information is going to be shared. And here's the key. Does the dealer really know who it's being shared with? Now, does the digital retailing company keep a copy? Does Shift Digital, for example, keep a copy? Does the website company keep a copy? And here's the thing, the dealer is on the hook that data is being protected, shared, transmitted, encrypted, and here's the key, not being used without the consumer's permission. Of course, none of this is in place. And so one of the conversations...
Brian, the dealers don't even know who's extracting data out of the DMS. I
Well, I'm
recently
just saying.
audited. I audited a dealer in Chicago, and there was a direct mail company that one of these uh, traveling shows that does the event sales
Mhm.
that he had done business with years ago that still had access to data from his DMS.
Right. Because again, it was never, listen, Jim, dealers are entrepreneurs. They were never trained in data science or data management. But here's what is going to happen. I'm just going back to history. Lithia was using a company many years ago that did one of the first texting campaigns, and
I
they got
recall. I
they got
recall.
fined, and a fine was $1 million, and DME Automotive was the company at the time, paid that fine. Everybody woke up. What's going to happen in Q1 of next year is there are going to be a series of lawsuits on GLB, and the dealers are going to be the target of the lawsuits. But here's the funny thing: every OEM website program, every OEM managed digital retailing platform is required to send leads to the middle management company, including the dealer. So there's already at least two people that have the leads. And I mentioned, does the website company also keep a lead or a DR as a backup in case something gets erased? And imagine the dealer now is saying, hold on, I'm going to get sued if the manufacturer or Shift Digital or Unite Digital or Gubagoo or Techion, if they mismanage the data, I'm the one on the hook. And
Yeah.
that's how GLB is written. So it's up to the dealer who has the relationship that with the website. And you could say, Jim, hold on, the dealer is forced to use this website and this digital retailing tool. That may be the case in the future. It doesn't avoid them from liability.
No,
And
not at all. Not at all.
that's why in the Napa Valley, I'm going to be presenting a different framework now with Atul Patel from Orbi. Similar problem that happened in the real estate lead management industry, that the dealers may need to be the gatekeepers of the lead information and anonymize that data themselves. And that is going to change the way in which,
A new word, anonymize.
yeah. So what could happen, Jim? And look, you've been in this business, you know it's not easy to get vendors to do anything. But watch this. Let's just say a dealer's website, it's Dealer Inspire. They have website forms, and they're using Roadster. Okay, Roadster has their own forms. Most of the websites have some type of forms. That information at that level, when it's captured, is consumer information, not customer information. So what the model is what if the dealer, when the consumer comes to the website, says, hey, we have lots of tools, we'd like you to register, and they say, okay, it's Brian Pasch, and email and phone. The dealer keeps that and then sends a message to Roadster, okay, they're unlocked, or sends a message to Dealer Inspire, here's the lead ID, the customer ID, and use that in the form. So the website company.
You lost your volume, Brian.
Sorry, I hit my keyboard. The idea here is that the dealer would be the repository of the name, address, phone number, and this is the only. By the way, this is the
And who in
only.
the dealership is going to be the administrator of that?
Well, this is the thing. Here's the GLB
Mhm.
puts the onus on the dealer. Now, Orbi is one company that's working on a solution. No one has a production level solution in place. But
Okay,
uh,
they don't.
what I did understand for the dealer groups, and Jim, most of them have chief marketing officers, they have an internal tech team. We may see the dealer groups start with this, and they're going to have to go back to the manufacturer and say, based on GLB, you cannot get copies of the leads that consumers give me. I will send you the anonymized lead ID so you know how many leads we got, but you can't see who it is. Now, once they become a customer, then there's rightful reason to share with the manufacturer. But Mr. OEM or Mr. DR company or Mr. website company, I'm not taking the risk that you're going to handle that information correct and get sued. So it's a very interesting concept. But you
Most
asked,
dealerships don't realize you are required to have a compliance officer.
well, this
And
is why.
they say to me, well, Mr. Ziegler, I've got 3 salespeople, 1 manager. Why do I need a compliance? Yes, you do. You know.
Well, Jim, we're in a new time where, listen, we've been talking about data, and you've been talking about data security for a long time. We chuckle sometimes when we see lawsuits against Google or Apple or Facebook for data privacy, and we kind of chuckle like, oh yeah, data privacy. And then when something comes to the automotive industry, here's what we say: that's too hard. That's too hard.
Netflix is almost out of business because of data leaks.
Yeah. So I think what we need to just encourage the dealers who are watching, you need to get some good advice. And of course, we're going to be talking about frameworks and solutions down in Napa Valley, but we'll also be talking online, Jim and I, over this year. There's a lot of things, Jim, we probably should get some people. And then there's the link to register for the conference. And Jim, we have a special promo code for all your followers, and you have thousands.
We're going to give my followers
Come on.
a discount to your conference.
That's correct. That's correct. Come on. We're sharing the love. And if they put in Alpha Dawg 200 in the and you have to spell it DAWG because there's only one dog. There's no DOG over here.
No, I live 30 miles from the University of Georgia with my beloved Georgia Bulldogs. Anyway.
That's right. So if you want to attend and really be engaged with great workshops and conference sessions in the Napa Valley, just use Alpha Dawg DAWG 200, save $200 off your registration. Jim, you're going to Digital Dealer. It's been a minute since you've been out speaking. What are you going to be talking about at Digital Dealer? Because you're going to be up on the main stage.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I haven't spoken anywhere in the last 3 years. I've done hundreds of speeches, hundreds of conferences, but I haven't, since the cancer and COVID, I haven't been on the big stage. Wow. 20 things a dealership needs to change post-pandemic.
That's great. Well,
20 things we need to do differently. I'm going to be talking about specific vendors, specific processes, specific things you need to prepare for with the EV age coming. There's a whole lot we're going to have to talk about. 20 things you need to change post-pandemic.
And Jim, as we continue just to elevate the discussion, encourage dealers to speak up, to encourage vendors and OEMs and dealers to get together to get this EV retailing model working, I'd love for you to consider coming out to our November conference. And I would love to see if we could put together a panel. You have many good OEM relationships. I wonder if we could get some OEM leaders who are directing the future of, say, what EV retailing or consumer direct. I wonder if we can get some to the conference and have you moderate.
I've been pretty critical of Ford recently. I don't know if Jim Farley still takes my calls. Farley and I have been pretty close through the years. I think I can still get him to take my calls. He's probably a little pissed at me right now because I've been critical of Ford.
We're just trying to find a balance. Ford came out and said, again, without much details, GM actually identified Tekion as their retailing platform and called it the DRP. And one of the things I heard recently that in the DRP sign up form, there's almost a accidental checkbox to sign up for Car Bravo. So GM dealers, be very careful on what you sign.
Car Bravo, that is a major bone of contention right now, and dealers are in revolt. They're not signing up.
I hope they don't, because listen, I just got back from Europe. I was there for 3 weeks, and dealers should be a student of what goes on in Europe, because there you will see Stellantis owns a used car network of stores.
Mm.
Yeah, well, yeah, they do. They do. And so, where the money is, everyone wants a piece, and dealers have been making good money on used cars. And all of a sudden, everyone wants to be in the used car business. And I think,
Everybody wants to be Vroom and Carvana. You better check their stocks.
yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah, Carvana stock, what, 300 to 50? That's quite a precipitous drop, don't you think?
Well, when you got a convicted felon in the background, what can you say?
Yeah, it's a little nutty. Hey, Jim, one of the other things I wanted to get your take on, because I've been doing some work with the folks at A to Z Sync and Fuse Auto
Yeah,
Tech.
let's talk about A to Z Sync. Chip
I
Perry.
want to get this idea of, there's a lot of dealers that are moving to a one point of contact selling model, where the a sales associate is doing the whole thing with a coach, who can jump in if there's something a little hairy on F&I. And the data from, say, Walzer and Chomp and some others are that they're holding PVR without, directing or creating a funnel, bottleneck in the F&I office. Now, you have been the master of F&I training. You've done so many workshops and training. When you listen to the teams at Walzer and A to Z and their success, they say, with the right training, with the right support structure, we don't need to have a single point of failure in the F&I office. We can scale and sell with one point. What's your thought on that? Because that's
Well,
a big.
first of all, and I'm going to go a little bit at length into this. First of all, I never trust statistics from any vendor supplied by the vendor. First of all, you never trust statistics, but from the vendor or by a company the vendor hired. That being said, uh, A to Z Sync actually hired me to consult some of their F&I program. They actually, Chip Perry and Brian Ali flew down to Atlanta and met with me about 4 months ago, and I did a whole F&I course for them.
Great.
A private F&I school, and they, I gave them my books, and they incorporated some of that into their program. I was modeling the CarMax program more than the A to Z program a long time ago. Now, the CarMax program is probably a blend of the one touch, one person. I believe, as a matter of fact, I'll be talking about A to Z Sync, and I'm partially endorsing it, which is probably got a lot of people chasing me up the hill like the Frankenstein monster. So yeah, and Walzer and Chomp and A to Z Sync have pretty well converted me a little bit. Brian Benstock has converted me a little bit.
Yeah, he's using the A to Z Sync platform.
Yeah, he is. Admittedly, it's experimental,
Sure.
and I don't believe the numbers are going to be always as good as they say they are. I think there's a little, a little smoke there. But anyway, I will say that the pain of switching over will be immense. The pain of transforming to an A to Z platform, not every dealer is prepared to do that.
No, because it's a change in mindset. It's a change in leadership. I was on a live stream last night, and I was sharing my opinion that, listen, dealers are experiencing record profits, and why the sun is shining. Let's just say they have 3 or 4 stores, Jim. My suggestion was pick a store to move to a single point of contact model, use that as the test bed, the experience, and really lean in, because what I've seen, like, I think the Champ Honda is one of the coolest showrooms I've ever been to from a consumer standpoint. When you get the experience down, when you see that the employees like it better, the consumers like it better, and it's scalable, then you move it out to other stores. But I'm not advising a 10-store group to cut over, 10 stores
No,
to
no, you got to remember Penske tried it 7 or 8 years ago, and it failed miserably. They went back to traditional.
yeah. I'm
See, and they gave it the college try. They threw a lot of money at it. So what you have to understand about the A to Z, I'm a little concerned about the F&I portion of the program. F&I is the one part of the formula. The F&I manager is the policeman of the dealership. They are the one that have to say no when everybody else will say, let's go with it. They are the one that has to be the legal compliance in the sale, the person that uh, looks out for that. And I've
Yeah,
got a link
and
to
in
users.
the in this
Sonic, yeah, Sonic has been doing it for a long time. Yeah, well, yeah, and I'm sure it was a great buying experience. And sometimes the best buying experiences are not as profitable. Um,
and I think Jim, what some people who are trying to just blindly defend the traditional model because they don't want to change, and I think we all should be rethinking what retail looks like. When we talk about single point, it doesn't mean that we don't have like a team
oh, there
manager.
are
Like a team.
managers in the background, and that's what
That's right.
converted me. That's what
And
converted
that's
me.
so if there's some problem going on in the F&I portion, there's somebody there jumping in and collaborating and helping. What it does do, Jim, though, is start to build the mental mindset, the skills of scale. And when you have a workforce that feels over time that they're really helping a consumer, they're doing the whole thing,
Yeah.
they're really being part of fixing a mobility problem a consumer has, it's very satisfying. And this is what I believe, and I was expressing last night the same thing, is that I believe dealers need to take a store and try it, because I believe this is what the OEMs have in mind anyway. And you know that when the OEM wants behavior changed, they either add money or take away money. And I want dealers to be prepared in advance.
Brian, I had it in writing 15 years ago, very similar to the CarMax experience, where a sales representative walks the customer through the selection process, the demonstration process, all of that, and then they introduce that person, the customer, the prospect, to a manager who does the entire transaction in front of a computer in one sitting. Never gets out of the chair, never TOs them to another manager, doesn't do any of that. So that was what I have advocated for years, which is a form. I'm still concerned about the F&I, of course.
Yeah.
F&I is a lot of dealers make no money on cars. They make all their money in service and F&I.
Well, Jim, that's why, and let's
Mhm.
just go back to a previous conversation. When Ford and GM announced that the e-vehicles were going to go through a national portal and the dealers will become basically a delivery center, the cars are going to be sold at MSRP and they will get a fixed commission. There was no details on who controls which F&I products are presented to the consumer.
Imagine that.
And there was no information on how the trade was going to be handled. And I think that it's somewhat irresponsible for the dealers to be, let me just say, not up in arms. It's like, hey guys, for you to go to the public markets, in which they've done, the public markets, and saying, this is how we're going to make it easy to buy electric vehicles just like Tesla,
Mhm.
when their whole franchise model is completely different, dependent on a different revenue stream. I just think it's irresponsible. I was watching, Jim, and you probably cringe as much as I do. I was watching CNBC, and I watch CNBC every day.
If I
And
watch CNBC, I cringe anyway.
So I was watching an interview about Ford, and this is what the commentator said. Ford and GM will never be as successful as Tesla because they have the overhang of their franchise dealers. What you're basically saying is the baggage of their franchise dealers. Now, you and I see it completely different. The franchise dealers are one of the most active members of the business community. They employ people, they provide solutions for.
Brian, I still believe that Ford is aggressively moving toward doing away with their dealers.
Well, listen, but here's what I'm saying. Why would a commentator say that unless behind the scenes the executives of these large manufacturers are saying
Said that in privacy.
we're going to fix this franchise dealer. We're not going to make it such a drag. We're going to cut out the profits that they're making and moving them more towards us. I'm very concerned. Now,
You got to remember, 100 years ago, Henry Ford was running around the country in a Model T, begging every garage and every stable to please be a Ford dealer. And he made lifelong commitments to these people. And these dealers have made huge financial commitments to the betterment of the manufacturer. So,
that's right.
And so they are a partnership. And, we go back to the handshake with Henry Ford, even though the stores have changed hands, that's still legacy. That legacy agreement is still there. And they're still requiring facilities, and they're still. I'm going to tell a dealer right now, before you buy a dealership, before you buy a franchise, I would make the manufacturer commit to at least 10 years.
Yeah. So and I mentioned this last time, but there's different viewers at different shows, Jim. I'm just going to tell you a conversation I had with a very large dealer holding group over in Europe, and Stellantis canceled all the European contracts a year and a half ago. They are now going back to the dealers, select ones that they want, and saying, would you like to be a Stellantis dealer? And my conversation with somebody said yes. All right, what are you going to pay us when we sell a car? Because they're moving to the agency model. We don't have those details yet. Okay, what about my facility? You know that nice showroom that you maybe buy? And Jim, wait till you hear their answer. Here's what the answer is. Well, in this new model, which is going to be build to order on a national website, you're going to be a delivery center. I just need you to display 9 or 10 cars. That will be about 20% of your facility. So we will reimburse you 20% of the facility. The other 80% you have to pay for. Wow, wow, welcome back. And I'm like, and then when you tell the story to dealers here in the US, say, Brian, that's never going to happen here.
Never going to happen here.
We have franchise laws to protect. And all I'm saying is every dealer who pushed back against eShop now has eShop pretty much on their website because Stellantis gave them more vehicles or added it to their financial
or threatened to take away inventory if they didn't.
All right. So guess what? Hey, how well does that franchise law protect your choice of retailing tools? No. Zero. Because at the end of the day, the money controlled. Now, until dealers unite and say, well, listen, I at least want to control the software and training and tools that I use to sell cars. If they don't, then guess what? A 10-store group that has 10 different brands is going to have 10 different sales platforms with 10 different sales processes. And you could say, hey, Brian, that's just the way it's going to be. I'm going to tell you that, Jim, I don't know one manufacturer that has proven that they know how to sell cars in scale, in the field, with consumers ever.
Well, the fact that they're going to crash hard, they're still going to try. They're still going to make the attempt because the generation that failed last time is already retired, and with this new generation thinks they're smarter than everybody.
Well, I'll tell you, the one manufacturer that I've been watching carefully that's been doing the best job is Toyota with their digital retailing.
Absolutely.
I've met with the Smart Path team. I've talked about how they're handling dealers, and they're like, Brian, we want dealers to evolve. We want buying a Toyota the easiest thing. We're building Smart Path. It's going to take us time to get it
So do
right.
we. So do we.
Exactly. And so
And
what
a
they've
lot of
told
their
me,
programs get in our way.
right? And so, the team at Toyota told the dealers, look, you want to use Gubagoo, you want to use Car Now, you want to use Roadster, go. Get the experience, clean up your sales process, make it faster and easy. In the meantime, we're going to be building SmartPath. And eventually it's going to be so good that you're going to want it. But I'm not going to force it on you. And you know what? Last time I saw a SmartPath, I was like, ooh, if I was a Toyota dealer, I would want this. So I love the fact that they're just saying, I'd rather bring my dealers along than surprise them. I want to build value in the supply chain instead of alienating people in the supply chain. And what I'm seeing,
Even Toyota has said they're going to restrict down to a 30 and 40 day supply on the ground. They're going to restrict inventory.
listen, it's going to be an interesting time. People, Jim, I think misunderstand us. We don't we don't have an axe to grind other than we want to protect the dealer. And so listen, we're not anti-vendor or
Never been anti-vendor, never been anti-manufacturer, just
we just want to,
anti-hostility.
right.
Hostility is aimed at the dealers. The dealers are not hostile to any of the vendors or manufacturers.
Yeah, and it was somewhat ridiculous to see some executives at car companies sending out letters to their dealers about charging over MSRP. Okay, in a free market economy, when tickets that I just booked to go to Europe this summer are $2,000 more than they were last year.
Absolutely.
$2,000 more. The hotels, you might have saw, they're 37% higher than any previous time. Everyone, it's supply and demand. So it's okay to pay $100,000 over asking price for a house. It's okay to jack up hotel rooms 37%. It's
Brian,
okay.
don't even go there. Let me give you a better example.
Nuts.
Mary Barra, thank God you can promote somebody out of HR to the executive of a major company. I love that. But anyway, Mary Barra, the leader of General Motors, just announced that we are going to near last year's profit because we have pricing advantage. They have raised the MSRP on the cars because they saw all the manufacturers. The Ram truck just went up $3,000, the 1500. All the MSRPs have gone up because they saw the extravagant money the dealers were charging over MSRP. So they gouged the hell out of customers, but don't you charge over MSRP?
Yeah. Listen, what I'm saying is we have to have common sense. Our customers, how we make business. Jim, I just took my Corvette for service yesterday. First time. It only has 2,300 miles. It's a 2020. It's a year and a half. I took it down. And like stupid stuff, like it just bothers me. I dropped it off. The guy said, hey, Brian, you have 4 little recalls and some software updates. Can you leave it overnight? And I said, sure, no problem. He called me last night and said, hey, your car's ready. I go down there this morning, pick it up. The car was waiting for me. Dirty. Like, I keep my car in the garage. The car was dirty. And I'm like, this is the first time that I went to this dealer for service because I got my Corvette somewhere else. I'm like, I told them that I was a new customer, that I lived in the area. I'm excited to take my Corvette here, and I pick it up. And it has all pollen and
Do you
crap
still
on it.
still have the Dodge Super B?
And I'm like, come on, guys. I mean, we're in, and it doesn't make a difference what you charge me, but, it still comes down, Jim, to doing the right thing for the customer.
It does. Do you still have the Dodge Super B?
You know what? I sold it last 2 years ago.
Oh my God.
The '69 Super B. I sold it, Jim. Here's 2 reasons why. Number one, I needed room in the garage because I only have a 2-car garage. The second thing is, the older you get, when you're going 70, 80 miles an hour down the Florida Turnpike, God forbid you get in an accident, no airbags. Your life is just about over in a 69 Super B, other than it's a tank. And so
I
you
had
don't
a 68 Super B when it was new.
Ooh, come
I
on.
I special ordered in 1968 a 68 Super B, same body style, very similar 383 engine, and the speedometer, as you recall, went up to 160 miles an hour.
Yes, they
Uh,
did.
I was 21 years old. I said, I wonder if this car really does 160 miles an hour. And I took it out on I-10 and polyglass tires. The front end was lifting up, and I was trying to get airborne, and I actually sunk that 160-mile-an-hour speedometer on the Dodge Super B.
Man,
My
and
my favorite.
that engine was so loud too. At 160, that thing must have been screaming. Yeah, no, the cars.
Polyglass tires.
Yeah.
I look back and say, what was I? And I swear to you, Brian, the car was trying to take off like an airplane. It was
Oh
doing
no,
this.
I'm sure it was. I just went down to the Mecum auction in Orlando a month or two ago, and they had a Dodge Daytona convertible with 440 six-pack, the whole thing, and $1 million original.
$1 million.
One.
I paid $3,200 drive out for that Super B. that was the going deal, and I had the
Yeah.
same situation with the 2-car garage. I had brand new luxury cars in 2 cars. I had my '67 GTO out in the weather, so I sold the GTO.
Boy, that's a beautiful car. That,
different days. We got to, next time we do the broadcast, we got to dig a little deeper into red flags rules. Red flags rules is the no, you talk about Graham Leach Briley. You have not looked deep enough into red flags rules, because red flags rules is going to be the number one thing that people are prosecuted on into the new year.
yeah, Jim, I have not done any work on that, and I
Yeah,
normally don't do a lot of compliance stuff, but the since I am involved in a lot of the retailing software, some people reached out to me. Um George Jones from the DCD Auto Group, who's a member of the CXO network, said, "Hey, Brian, man, we're trying to put together a GLB framework to protect our group. What are other people doing?" So we have a GLB discussion set up on Saturday in Napa just to see what dealer groups are doing to
here's a
protect.
guy you need to hire, James Ganther, attorney out of Tampa. He's the automotive compliance attorney,
Okay.
and he is a speaker. He
Oh, maybe I'll get him to speak in November, Jim. Maybe
I,
that's a good idea.
you really need to reach out to Jim Ganther, because he has educated me and keeps me educated on current trends. And he is really. I'm teaching a class at Northwood University. I know your brother Glenn is teaching a class as well.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm teaching a class on general manager and another class on F&I. And the class I'm teaching at Northwood University, I've had Jim Ganther twice in my F&I class and my general manager class talking about legal compliance. And Ganther says the number one prosecution of dealers going into the next decade is going to be red flags violations, and dealers are not ready for it. You personally need to get educated with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get up to speed. So, Jim, on the side, if you would maybe send me Jim Ganther's email address, I'd like to talk with him and see if he'd be willing to address the conference in November. And I really want you to think about can we get a good OEM discussion in November together? I know that the team at Toyota is very vocal about doing what's right for the dealer. I think SET is right in Florida. I bet we can maybe get some leadership from Toyota to represent. I wonder if we can get some other OEM leaders who are focused on the retailing piece, the software piece. Maybe we can get them together.
Like I say, I admire Jim Farley. I think the world of him. I've been very critical of Ford lately, and in some of my articles and some of my broadcasts. I don't know if Jim's still speaking to me.
Well, we got to find out. Come on.
We got to find out, because he's been a great friend. I've known him from his Toyota days, and yeah, interesting. We'll see. And General Motors, Ed Pieper is a pretty good friend of mine. So
yeah, it'd be great to since people listen to our opinions and our encouragement to the dealer community. It'd be good to have them participate in these discussions. And I want to remind everyone who's watching live or in replay, I have a LinkedIn newsletter that if you just go to my LinkedIn profile, just scroll down, and it's called Modern Retailing. And make sure you subscribe to that, because I'm about twice a month, I'm putting out some articles on that. And then Jim, again, anybody who'd like to come out to the Napa Valley to really get the latest in retail strategy and sales process for a digital age, come out to Digital Marketing Strategies, and there's the code, just like that. Alpha Dog 200 saves you $200 off tickets. It's not printed anywhere else, so if you're watching, you get access, and I'd love for you to come out and join the conference. Jim, we're getting close to our hour.
Yeah, we're getting close to our hour. I think it's been a productive hour.
Sure. Went fast.
Yeah.
So we need to definitely put together a couple topics that this audience would like to see us talk about. So
I'm going to start polling the audience now that this is our second show, and
yeah, are you enjoying this conversation? What other topics would you like us to bring to the forefront? That's the key, right, Jim? We want to be serving the needs of the people that are here.
Well, the thing about it is very few people watch this live broadcast. We will get thousands of replays. My site, ZieglerOnDemand.com, and it's free. ZieglerOnDemand.com. All of these broadcasts will be there, including my dog pound shows and all my training, my F&I school. Everything's there. And Ziegler on Demand, we had 87,000 hits last month, views.
And that's awesome, Jim.
Yeah, we've had over 100,000 views in a 30-day. It gives me a 30-day running
window.
Window. So 87,000, I think, is my last 30 days. I've had over 100,000 views on ZieglerOnDemand.com. F&I training, sales manager training, salesperson training, old school and new school. And you're talking about A to Z Sync. I'm going to be talking about A to Z Sync at Digital Dealer next week.
Great.
I'm speaking May 9th, 2 p.m. is my speech. And I didn't want an early morning speech because some people still be arriving. So I got a 2 p.m. slot on the big stage.
Well, that's a good slot.
It's a great slot. So yeah, and read my article in Digital Dealer magazine. I'm a regular columnist monthly in Digital Dealer. So stay in touch with what I'm doing, and completely sponsor driven. Brian, a lot of my competitors in the training business are charging per rooftop for online video training. So I just said, we're not going to charge for rooftop. I'm going to charge the sponsors. So the sponsors are carrying the platform.
Wow, that's really smart, Jim. And the dealers love that. And listen, you have such a good following that the sponsors love the exposure.
It's worked out. It's worked out well for the sponsors. And by the way, call me for a sponsorship. Yeah. Anyway, Brian, we're down to the last 1 minute. no telling. We're not regularly scheduling these. These will schedule when they schedule. Because
That's
I know
right.
you're back and forth to Europe and you've got a lot of other business things happening. Ladies and gentlemen, Napa Valley, May 22nd through the 24th. Digital marketing strategies. There's .org, O-R-G, digitalmarketingstrategies.org. And if you go to that site and you put in Alpha Dog 200 into code, you get a $200 discount.
Come on.
Brian,
Let's
thank
make
you.
some
Wave goodbye.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks, everyone, for watching live and on